Hello, and welcome to CJayThay's ramblings on social psychology. Today, we will be discussing the topic of self-knowledge. Now, this is what one believes about oneself, what is known and what is perceived as their selves. Now, self-knowledge is often a complicated thing, but with age, it becomes even more complicated. The younger we are, the more we attribute our self to concrete detail, such as what we do, what we like, what gender we are, what age we are, and the neighborhood we live in. Now, as we tend to get older, it gets more complicated and more socially influenced into something that is, I don't know, well, I think I'm a nice guy, or I can be a jerk sometimes, or, in these situations, I'm a drunk, or whatever. And it goes into more characteristic attributes rather than physical. These help develop our self-schemas. Schemas are what help organize and remember what ourselves are. Now, schemas also help decide what we'll do in the future, and it is formed from what we've done in the past. And because we all believe that we are good, honest, decent people, our schemas uphold that belief. Now, some self-schemas can change because we do certain things that we didn't think we would, or they don't, and we do those same things and don't remember them because our schemas won't let us. That's why some people are so in denial of stuff they have done. It's because it doesn't fit into their own schemas about themselves. Well, they would never do that. So, they must not have. Even if there's insurmountable physical evidence against it, they will still hold the belief because they honestly believe that they did not do such a thing. Now, schemas also help with self-control. Our self-control is actually a limited resource, according to a study shown that using self-control reduces the ability to exert control on a subsequent and completely unrelated task. In incredibly stressful situations, say we have a play we're rehearsing for over here, and then we have a whole bunch of homework, and then on top of that we're all sick. That's not good. And because we need to hold self-control in all these different areas, it loses some of its steam, and we snap easier. That's why when we are sick, or aggravated, or irritated, we snap at those we love. Frankly, we don't like doing that, but it's because we lose our self-control, because we've exerted so much of it on other areas. What contributes to our self-concept is mostly in our culture. Is it an independent or interdependent? Now, in America, we have an independent culture. It focuses on the individual, whereas in some Far Eastern countries it's much more interdependent, to where it's the group that matters rather than the individual. Here in America, we couldn't even fathom focusing only on the group. We're like, well, what about us? I mean, come on. That's just the way we were raised, and that's what we are familiar with. That's why we are the way we are. I'm not saying that one independently grown person can't become interdependent. There is a certain amount of will involved, but it is strongly influential on how we believe ourselves to be. And again, most of where we come from is because of social standings and because of social pressures. You might ask how we know ourselves. Well, this is because we look inward at and examine our own thoughts, our very thoughts that we thought were private. Well, they are private because they're still within ourselves. We're examining them, but we are examining them as a third party. It's very weird. We can look at ourselves in the moment, outside of the moment. It's the human mind. It's pretty awesome. Social psychology is awesome for that reason. Check more into social psychology. When we do look at ourselves, we are kind of biased, and we have our schemas still attached. so that when we look at ourselves, we will only believe certain thoughts are really ours, and then others will like, well, that wasn't my thought, I wasn't thinking that. And another way we get our self-image is through self-awareness, just simply watching what we do. Now, as we go on through life, we buy a cup of coffee, and it's like, well, they ask us for a receipt, and we say no. Well, that's a decision we made. Well, why did we make that decision, Caleb? I don't know, Caleb. Why did we make that decision? Well, I don't really need a paper receipt. I would only throw it away eventually anyway. That's a good choice, Caleb. I see why you've done that, because you're a good, honest, decent person. See, we observe ourselves doing something, and then we evaluate it, break it down, and understand why, or why not we should have done that. Because we can do stuff that we don't like so much. Say, I don't know, you yell at your loved one. Say brother. Say, my brother moved my clothes around and I didn't like it and I yelled at him. That's not a good thing. And I'm like, oh, why did you do that, Caleb? I thought you loved your brother. And I'm like, oh, Caleb, it was frustrating. He moved my clothes around and I didn't see... Oh, that's kind of a silly reason to yell at him, isn't it? I'm sorry, Caleb. You are forgiven, Caleb. I am sorry, brother. It's okay, Caleb, I love you. See, now everything's better. That's why self-awareness can be a good thing, but we sometimes avoid it because we are afraid of negative evaluations. Now, that is just a small glimpse into the world of social psychology. I hope you enjoyed my interpretations of this subject, and if you want more, just make sure to hit the button below and comment. Now, this has been CJayThay's rantings on social psychology. Until next time, if there is, I hope you enjoy yourself.